Okay. With regard, first we'll start with crux, right? If you see last 3 to 4 years of question, around 6 to 7 questions came from crux. Crux, main idea, central idea, these are all same. We'll follow the same process. If you come across these terms, crux, main idea, central idea, they are all the same. We'll follow the same process, right? And because this is an introductory class along with RC, this crux, let's understand what should be our approach for RC. As I have said, our goal is to get all the questions correct. If we attempt 22 questions or 23 questions, we have to get all these questions correct. Not necessarily we attempt all 29 questions and make 10 mistakes, right? And those 10 mistakes again bring down my marks or bring down another 2 or 3 questions. We'll not do that. If we attempt 22 questions, we'll get all those 22 questions correct. Now for that, we have to understand there are 2 things we have to have to be very clear. First is the directives should be crystal clear. And we'll understand the directives, right? Difference between crux, message, corollary, right? These has to be crystal clear. The second thing is that we will not follow that approach where we rely on options. Many YouTube videos will have those tricks. You read the options and then you go and read the passage. No. Our goal is that we should be relying on the passage. We have to understand the passage first, right? So reading comprehension is not a test of speed or vocabulary. It is a test of discipline in reading and reasoning. Once you have read the passage, what you understand from the passage, right? That's it. If you do that, right? If you understand the passage, you understand the directive, you will come to the right answer. Aapko eliminate bhi nahi karna hoga, like you will find, acha, this is the inference, this is the crux. Okay? So the goal is to understand, like discipline, reading and understanding. Now, with regards to speed and vocabulary, it does not matter. Trust me, vocabulary, like people will have very good vocabulary and will not be able to understand. Right? And it's not kaun jaldi padh sakta hai, like how, like I'll be reading very fast and then I'll focus only on my options in order to get to the right answer. No. Right? Even if you don't understand 1 word or 2 words, it's okay. In essence, are you able to understand, comprehend the passage? That is important, right? So in case of, and this is the finality of the rule, in case of passage, you have to understand that what the question is saying, that is your directive, and what the passage is talking about. That's it. That is the relation. Okay? And with regards to that 2 options, I think I stopped midway. I eliminate those 2 options easily. Those 2 options, remaining 2 options are difficult to eliminate. And hence, I feel this option is correct. वो feeling से नहीं काम करना है. There is a method for every madness, right? If there is a difficult question, we will try to find out a method to solve that question, right? So basically, if you see RC, I've divided this into 6 categories. Apart from 6 categories, there is another category, miscellaneous. I'll talk about the miscellaneous category a bit later. So basically, if you see your entire passage since 2000, like जब से start हुआ था, 13 से start हुआ था, right? 12, 13, whenever it is, like till now, you will find it is divided into these number of questions. Yes, the percentage of assumption questions have increased. 13 questions came last year. Now, what is the reason? UPSC follow these data, right? People are making mistakes in assumption and hence increase the assumption questions, right? If you see last year corollary question they have given 1 corollary question, right? Since 2019, this was another time they have given corollary question. Last it was in 2019 or 20. And then uske baad like 21, 22, 20, 24. There were no corollary questions. Now what is the reason why they gave corollary question? Because students did not prepare their corollary. Kya corollary hota kya hai? If a corollary question comes out, so they have given 1 question and which UPSC by the trend, they might give 2 or 3 questions. So we have to understand what corollary. Inference questions, 6, 7 inference questions aate rehte hain, right? Then what UPSC is doing right now, they give 1 passage, right? 1 passage, and then they ask 2 questions. Usme ek inference hota hai, and then they have assumption. Now, the trick is this, why they do that. Inference question, there's a different logic to come to inference. There's a different logic to come to assumption. But we don't use logic. We read one passage and then we try to eliminate based on the nature of the option. Right? And we make mistake. Right? Implied meaning and this implication wale questions abhi nahi aa rahe. Like last question that came was in 21, 22. Implications came. Implied last came in I think 20. Right? Another like weightage wali hai message question. Right? Message question also like UPSC is asking around 7-8 questions. Okay? So basically these are the 6 directives. We will have 6 different processes to solve. Understand the directive, read the passage well, and know which passage to attempt and not. Whichever passage you will be attempting, if you understand the directive, following the process well, read the passage well, right, we'll get all the questions correct. That is like absolute guarantee. I'll give you an example. I gave my last attempt in 2023. So my maths is very poor, right? I only solved 26 questions and solved some maths questions as well. But I got through. And the reason was that like I relied only on passages, but I will not advise you to do that. Obviously, you have to do your maths section as well, right? But I did it because like it comes very innately to me, these kind of like the passage thing, okay? Not like maths. Okay, so again, I've said passage first approach. So the passage is primary, right? The options are secondary. So we have to focus on the passage, how to read the passage, and we'll learn how to read the passage. In this 5 days, like after Saturday, will completely change yourself in reading the passage. Okay, what should be the outlook? Which areas should I focus, right? You must read to understand the author's position, tone, and logical flow, not to hunt for keywords, which we do. There is an option, like there's a keyword, I will go and try to find it in the passage. वो नहीं करना है. Because the moment you do that, you're falling into the trap of UPSC. Because UPSC also see YouTube videos. UPSC भी ना tricks देखते हैं, ठीक है? So they will apply those tricks and try to frame a question. And this happens in GS also. If you have seen, like there is this thing कि like extreme, अगर कोई extreme words आता है ना, उसको निकाल दो. It's true, but UPSC has also framed extreme question as correct questions. ठीक है? So tricks काम नहीं करता है like all the time. So the question is answered from the passage to the options, never the other way around. We'll read the passage and then we'll read the options. Exception is your inference and assumption. There, more focus should be on the option, but the process is same. We'll read the passage and then the options, right? Okay. I think I talked about this in the early stages. Now, when you will be solving questions, let's say that you solve 6 questions, 7 questions. Okay. Achha, before I come to this, there is a process of also solving your PYQs. I think everybody has seen PYQs, but solving, like you should know how to solve the PYQs. Don't do your 2025 and 2020 paper. I'll tell you the reason why. I think everybody has given 2025 paper, right? Achha, you have not. Okay. But if you have not, keep it aside. Abhi mat dijiye, please. And 2020 also, because 2020 was the paper, actually 21 was the most difficult paper, but 2020 say like UPSC created that, changes in passage, right? Difficult passage and difficult options as well. Usse pehle kya hota tha? Passage was difficult, more or less, but options were easy. You can easily like eliminate options. But from 2020, there was a sudden change. So don't do 2020 paper and 2025 paper. So what you do is, and this is the best way to approach your PYQ, 24 से लेकर do 21 पीछे से, ठीक है? 24, 23, 22, 21, and don't solve the paper. Do directive wise. So take 2024 paper, take all the main idea question, central idea, main idea, या crux question, solve from 24 to 21. 24 to 21. I'll tell you the reason also. Same with assumption and inference. The reason is this: the moment you solve 24 to 21, all the directive question at the same time, you will understand the logic. Ki, acha, this is the way UPSC is framing the correct options and the incorrect options. This is a way where the central idea question, crux questions, इनका passages थोड़ा अलग होता है inference questions के साथ, like in comparison to inference question or assumption question, right? So your focus should be what? To do directive wise from 24 to 21. Now once you have done that, okay, now once you have done that, like all the directives from 2019 to 2015-14, उसे पीछे मत जाइए, because like then you have lengthy passages, ठीक है? And it's not, अभी it does not have any tone and tenor of UPSC. There what you do like as you solve your passages, like core, then inference, assumption, right? Did you want, like, get what I'm trying to say? So first 4 years, now you do all the core crux questions in order to identify the nature of the question, and then you do from 2019 to 15 so as to practice the question in exam format, right? There you cannot select, अच्छा मुझे सिर्फ core वाले questions करना है, I will only do crux, this inference question, or I will only do assumption questions. You can't do that, right? ठीक है. And now when you will be solving, because we will be following a process which we'll learn today, it will take time. Probably one question will take 5 minutes, even 6 minutes time. Now, this is the month of February. If you follow this process for just 20-25 days, trust me, this 5-6 minutes will come below like 2 minutes, even 1.5 minutes, right? In case of crux, message question, implication question, like I can guarantee you that you can, like if you sustain every day you practice, you will solve those questions within 1.5 minutes. Like it's not guaranteed. This is like very simple, right? But if you try to do that now without following the process, jaldi karna hai mujhe, then you will like probably you will be lucky few times, but you will not learn the process. Okay? So speed is a function of repeated correct practice, right? Speed will only come when you practice again and again and again and again. So follow on accuracy part. Speed will come naturally, right? Trying to be fast without a method leads to random elimination inconsistency. That like you will be lucky sometime, but most of the time you won't. Okay? Then you will be probably solving 26 questions, 27 questions, and you will be getting 7 questions incorrect. ज़्यादातर ऐसे ही होता है. Like when I ask students कि how many questions, sir, I have solved all 27 questions, and out of 27 questions, I think 7-8 questions मेरा गलत हो गया है. Now 7-8 questions, like yeah, 8-9 questions missing means another 3 questions goes away. So 27, 10, like 17 questions are correct, and probably you are taking 1 hour to solve RC questions. So in 1 hour you are just solving 17 questions. You are getting the logic of it, technically speaking, right? So our focus should be on accuracy first. Speed will come naturally, right? So this part, you know, 2025 there were 29 questions, right? So they have increased the percentage number of questions. Assumption questions have gone up, shot up. The reason assumption question have shot up because UPSC have realized कि students सबसे ज़्यादा वहीं पर गलती करते हैं, तो because it's an elimination exam, let's give those questions. 21 से लेकर 24 तक 27 questions आते थे, ठीक है? 2019 there were 30 questions, right? So a strong command over RC, that 40 minutes goal should be like whichever number of questions you solve, I'll solve exactly correctly. Okay? Even if you solve like 22, 23 questions. So now what we'll do is that first identifying the directive correctly, reading with purpose and structure. When we're reading the passage, we have to read properly, right? Applying a consistent, repeatable method. If core, we are doing core, there will be a core wala method. If you are doing inference, there will be an inference wala method, right? And eliminating options logically, not intuitively. Okay, chalo, start karte hain. Understood? Let's start. Okay. So crux, what does this word means, crux? And how many of you like still have this confusion between crux and message? Like think that crux and message are like they're same. Okay, so they are not, right? So message will take up tomorrow, but I'll tell you what is the difference. There's a very minor difference. The difference is this, that when a message-based question comes, what does it say? It says that give the most rational, essential, critical message from the from the passage given above, something like that. So message is given by whom? Is given by the author who has written the passage. So in message-based question, it is the author what it's trying to communicate. Let's say that I have written something. What am I trying to communicate through that passage? So there you have to focus on certain elements in the passage, right? In crux question, it is what the passage is trying to say, not the author, what the passage is trying to say. Because author has written this particular passage, like indirectly what the author is trying to say, but overall what the passage is trying to say. So a crux question asks for the core claim of that passage. The moment you remove that core claim, so core claim is that the spine that holds the passage. If you remove that core claim, your passage falls. Okay. Understood? The core claim of the passage. Okay. So UPSC uses these terminologies: central argument, author's main idea, but they are all same. Crux, central argument, author's main idea. If these three terms comes, we'll follow the same process. Okay? Okay. Now, so step, like it's a very two-step process. We'll follow two-step process. First step is identify the author's intent and tone. So here author and passage means the same, right? You have to, what does this tone mean? Tone is like cautionary in nature, right? Prescriptive in nature. When doctor writes this prescription, you need to do this, you need to take 2 tablets a day or something like that. Prescriptive in nature, critical in nature. Critical in the sense, like it's like everything is bad, right? So you have to identify the tone of the passage. We'll do the exercise, you will understand. Second is reduce the passage to 1 sentence or 2 sentences, right? Iska summary banana hai, right? So you ask this question, and another thing, as I've said, because focus should be on the passage, will not see the option. Our goal should be first identify the tone, then in 1 line or 2 lines, make a summary of it, that what is the passage essentially arguing about. Now, the moment we do that, that summary jo hai na, wahi aapka answer hai. That is your answer. And like you will see the magic also. And this is why UPSC frame these questions very, very logically, which many others don't. So make a 2-line summary, 1-line summary, 2-line summary. Okay. Then determine the tone of the passage. So you can designate the tone as analytical, critical, prescriptive, cautious. In a passage, there can be 2 tone also. It starts with critical, but at the end it is prescriptive. Example, so in the year 2026, the world has still not, I think I give this example many times, the world has still not achieved the climate goals. We have miserably failed in adhering to the Paris Agreement, and the consequences of such agreement is, the consequences of such failure is climate-related migration, climate-related disasters have increased, etc., etc. Hence, we have to. Now, so initially it is critical. Then it says, hence we have to focus on loss and damages. We have to focus on, let's say, a consensus-oriented decision-making, right? So it is giving a prescription. Starts with what? Critical. Then ends with prescription, right? So a passage can also be that it starts critically or it starts very negatively, but it gives a kind of prescription to it. In such cases, the answers are almost always prescription, almost 95%. You don't have to even look at, the moment you see 4 options and you see कि अच्छा ये prescription है, बाकी तो negative है, बाकी there's another way they frame UPSC very cleverly, they frame called finality. We'll discuss that also. Then they frame mismatch of causality, cause and effect का mismatch होता है, ठीक है? So the moment you understand, अच्छा, these are not the way the passage is ending. The passage is ending prescriptively. The answer has to be prescriptive. Option में 4 में से सिर्फ एक ही prescription है. So I'll just close my eyes and I will take that answer. ठीक है? Okay. अच्छा, another thing we discussed कि we have to make a 1-line summary, right? When we are making 1-line summary, we have to understand that and this happens only in case of crux question, main idea question, central idea question. The theme will get repeated. The themes will get repeated. Okay? And because the themes get repeated, that particular theme has to be in your summary. We'll understand. Abhi examples hai, like it will all again be clear. Okay? Okay. So elimination, obviously, there are few ways UPSC like have a trap, goes beyond the passage, which I think I don't have to explain it to you, because you know, like these are short sign of not the answer. Focuses on one example, because crux means what? Crux means that central idea, core idea, not one example, right? More extreme than the author. Again, this is another way you eliminate options, right? Extreme hai, theek hai, nikal dete ho, theek hai. Okay. Okay, like now we will do this exercise. Read this passage and tell me what is the tone of this passage. इसका tone क्या हो सकता है? Excellent, prescriptive. But starting कैसे? थोड़ा critical. देखो यहाँ पर regrettably, just a second. Regrettably, teaching and learning for the examination have been our forte, but the new demands of society and the future. So initially, slightly it starts critical. Usually it does so. Any passage starts in that, but how is it ending? Higher education, this should not either be a mere servant of the government or a passive responsive respondent to public mood. Higher learning is all about how to think rather than, so this is prescriptive in nature. Understood? Okay? Okay. So, understood the tone? Chalo. Let's make a summary of it. Like, give me a summary in 1 line or 2 line. Kya ho sakta hai? Whatever comes to your mind. You can write it down also, like this can be the summary. You read it, take your time.
The focus of higher education should be thinking, learning rather than teaching and learning.
Yes, yes, excellent. ठीक है, this one can be the summary, right? एक काम करते हैं, theme repeat हो रहा है. Let's see which themes are getting repeated. ठीक है? In our country, regrettably, teaching and learning for the examination have been our forte. But the new demands of society and the future work require critical and independent thinking. So somewhere down the line, thinking is the focus, right? Critical and independent thinking, right? Learning through doing, asking questions from so here it's primarily talking about new form of education, right? Multiple disciplinary perspectives on the same issue using evidence for building arguments and reflecting and articulation, right? So we had a different form of education. Now the demand for the education is different, and hence demand for the education is different, and hence we need the new form of education. Basically from here we understood this. Higher education should not either be a mere servant of government policy or a passive respondent to the public mood. Okay, so this is one of the like argument that they have given, ki higher education should not, like, can you relate to any current affairs or any date, NEP, right? NEP, right? Or passive respondent to public mood. How many of you are from Delhi University? Delhi University. So you must be understanding this. Chalo, theek hai, koi nahi. Or a passive respondent to public mood. Higher learning, again, look, higher learning is all about how to think. We think hai yahan par, theek hai? How to think rather than what to think. Teaching has to be reinvented. So what can be the summary? Now let's एक summary बनाते हैं इसका. क्या हो सकता है? One he said, which is good. Any other summary?
The passage is essentially talking about reinventing higher education.
Excellent. It's reinventing higher education, right? ठीक है. So tone was prescriptive. Summary was, as we have said, कि it's reinventing higher education, right? Now, अब देखिए options. Right. D is the answer. Right. Now, it's D is the answer. Will not be happy that D is the answer. Will be what we'll do is that why ABC is not the answer and how UPSC frame its tricks. Okay, देखो. C. And you will tell me why these are all incorrect. Everybody understood why D is the answer. Classroom needs, ठीक है? Needs prescriptive, ठीक है? To be reimagined, and teaching needs to be, again, teaching was there in our summary, was it not? It was there, right? And somebody said ki reimagined, right? Our higher education should be reimagined, needs to be reinvented. End में तो वही लिखा था, reinvented वाली, ठीक है? So it is prescription, tone भी match हो रहा है, and summary, तो its summary is there, right? Now why, now this is what your actual learning is. This is what your actual learning is, and which we don't do, and hence we will get all the questions correct. It's just not only to come to the right answer. Why these ABC is incorrect? If you understand why ABC is incorrect, we'll be careful in eliminating these kind of options in crux-based questions and main idea questions, central idea questions. Now you tell me, why option C is incorrect? Classroom approach to higher education should be done away with. Extreme है. Nowhere it is mentioned about ऐसे वाले जो passages है ना, इसको remember this term, finality. Whenever finality in the sense उसके मतलब जब आप argue करते हो बुजुर्ग से, right? आपको ये नहीं करना चाहिए. Final, there cannot be any more argument. Whenever there is an option which is you designate as finality, वो गलत ही होता है, because in case it's extreme, you're right. But if the passage is extreme, and so we'll not use the term extreme. If the passage is extreme, and we'll see example also, अगर passage extreme है ना, option में भी अगर extreme दे रहा है, then it will be correct. Because passage is extreme, right? Option can be extreme. But if it's a finality, classroom approach to higher education should be done away with. It's you cannot argue. It's like arguing with a child. ठीक है? Option B, the institutions of a higher learning in the country should not be under the control of the government. Why this is incorrect?
It is not talked about, it should be controlled.
Yes, fine, and yes. So did we discuss कि example हम लोग नहीं लेंगे? ये example है. One example which was mentioned in the one example which was there here. Either be a mere servant of the government policy or a passive respondent to public mood. It's just one example. It's just talking about one aspect. This is how UPSC is framing wrong option. And how clever they are in the if you follow that option wala and then I'll verify. So if you read this option, it's so very it's very luring, right? The institution of higher learning in the country should not be under the control of the government. And if you read the passage, it says reflecting a higher education should not either be a mere servant of the government policy or passive respondent to public mood. ये तो कह रहा है यहाँ पर, और ये inverted commas में बोल रहे हैं, तो यही होगा आंसर. No. ठीक है? Okay. India does not have enough resources for promoting quality education in its university. This is not finality. This is outside the scope. It's like resources के बारे में बोला ही नहीं है, right? ठीक है? And this is 2025 paper. ठीक है? You all give this proof. ठीक है? चलो. So summary is equal to crux of the passage. The moment and so now the learning from here is this: in crux-based questions where you get around 6 to 7 questions, you have to learn how to make summaries and identify the tone. The moment you make summary properly, identify the tone, you will get all the crux-based questions correct. These are the only two things. Okay? Shall we move on to the next one? Okay. So read it and tell me the tone and the summary of it. Right. Done? Can we say that it's prescriptive also? It started with it's not critical, but it started with analytical. And then it was prescriptive, right? ठीक है. Now let's make a summary of it. Let's underline few words which are like repeated themes. So एक तो है green, right? One is like your green growth, which is like again talked about. Involves rethinking, right? Growth strategies with regard to impact on environmental sustainability and environmental resource available to poor and vulnerable groups, right? Poor and vulnerable groups. In rethinking growth, अच्छा again this rethinking growth is coming. तो मतलब आंसर में तो ये rethinking growth हो गई होगा. If it's not there, you can like remove it. We need to focus on the current reality of resource. अच्छा resource somewhere like it was talked about resources. Yeah, resources available to resource reality of the resource constrained world, right? Resource intensive, again this resource term is coming again and again. Intensive and in particular energy intensive processes will need to make way for more efficient and resource frugal development. So what is it like now? It is resource intensive, we have to move towards being resource frugal, right? The lies like chalu hai, okay? We have to reduce few lies. If we are to avoid an economic dead end or a world in which only a small elite is able to enjoy affluence in the midst of sea of poverty. अच्छा यहाँ पर भी poverty के बारे में बोला गया है, right? So what can be the like from here? What can be the summary of it? ठीक है, that yes. Sustainable, inclusive. These are the words that are there. Anything else like rethinking? Like rethinking can also be there. Right, because it's about rethinking of growth strategy.
Optimal utilization of resources.
Rethinking of distribution of resources. Yeah, like distribution, optimization, sustainability. These are the things. You don't have to be exact. You have to just make up. So can I say that this can be the summary? Green growth requires new thinking, focusing on resource efficiency so as to benefit all. Can I make this summary? अभी इसका आंसर क्या होगा? C, right? Is it making sense now? Tone and your summary, right? Now let's see why the other options are incorrect. Environmental sustainability is inimical. Inimical means, what is the word inimical means? Inimical is like, that is imitable. Inimical is enemy. It's opposite, like, right? Environmental sustainability is inimical to our objective of achieving a high rate of GDP growth. Why this is incorrect? GDP growth कहाँ पर है GDP growth? ठीक है, actually उल्टा है. GDP it's talking about sustainability. It's talking about poor people. Right, I can just close my eyes and I can eliminate option B. A. Why option B is incorrect? Poverty eradication is not possible without a rapid economic growth and the consequent environmental degradation. Finality. It's not extreme. Finality. We'll keep this in mind. But if poverty eradication is not possible without a rapid economic growth and consequent environmental degradation, commonsensically also this is not right. Because like, how can it be so, right? Option D, with large population, rampant poverty and limited resource of today's world, environmental degradation cannot be prevented and inequalities are inevitable. Extreme finality, right? Like it's a cannot be prevented and inequalities are inevitable. As if like he has seen some doomsday movie and then he's reading the passage, right? Now, maintaining high environmental standard. Again, resource efficiency, I can think of that, right? So you have to understand that the crux will be nearer to your summary. Whatever the option is, you have made the summary, na, it will be nearer to the summary. देखो exact हम नहीं कर पाओगे. It's not possible. And hence it is very important when you read the passage, na, don't see the option. If you see the option, then again you will be biased. The moment you read the passage, you make the summary, right? Trust me. Like you don't even have to like eliminate based on this. And did you eliminate based on this and that? The moment you came to see, right, you know that it was the right answer because उसका tone match हो रहा है, ठीक है? उसका summary match हो रही है, right? Maintaining high environmental standard is now a prerequisite for achieving a steady, sufficient, and inclusive growth. Inclusive growth, right? Poor people and this. So yesterday we did this crux-based questions, right? So in crux-based questions, what we understood is that like you have to focus on the tonation and the summary. The moment we identify the tone and we identify the summary, your job is done. Like your summary is the crux. Okay. Another thing in case of crux we discussed was this, that we cannot bring outside knowledge. We cannot bring outside knowledge. It might not be in case of assumption, inference, implication. There you can have outside knowledge, but in case of crux and message, we cannot have outside knowledge. Okay. Okay. Now there are a couple of things before we go into message-based questions. So in message-based questions, I think you have realized one thing, that so you have this critical message, you have this essential message, practical message, right? Now when UPSC give, like, these are the keywords which has been there since 2015-16. When UPSC is giving these keywords, ऐसे नहीं दे रहा, there is a reason to, like, why they give these keywords. Now we'll understand those, but in message-based questions, as I think I've discussed earlier also, it is very important that we have to focus on the passages. It is very important that we have to focus on the passages. Okay? Okay. 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 So, like, how to solve message-based questions? If you see 7 to 8 message-based questions come every year, right? And of the questions which come, all of them are solvable. But again, the process is important. We'll not go by the instinct. We will not go by that feeling कि we can eliminate these two options. बाकी के जो दो option है ना, वो फिर like instinctively I will choose this one. Here also we have a process. And if we stick to the process, I think we discussed yesterday, if you stick to the process, you will come to the answer directly. You don't have to there try to find which is the correct answer. You will identify the answer correctly. Okay? Okay. So what is a message-based question? I think when we were discussing crux, what did we say? That crux is what the passage is speaking to you. Crux is what the passage is speaking to you. Message means what the author is trying to communicate to you. There's a difference. Crux is what the passage is trying to speak to you, right? In message, what is the author trying to communicate? And I guess in your lifetime you have written something, right, as an author, in diaries, right, or in your digital media. So when we write, just imagine in this way, when we write something, you write to communicate, you write to tell something to the whoever is reading. And what you do in that process, you use certain words, certain emotive words. What are emotive words? We'll come to that. You try to relay an emotion. So whenever an author is writing something, he or she is trying to relay an emotion. The moment you realize that, what he's trying to or she is trying to relay that particular part, what emotion he is trying to relay, or what is the intent of the author, that is the message. You don't have to search. Out of 4 options, you don't have to search. Another important thing, like crux-based question, what did we discuss? You will not have statement-based questions. Crux questions are always option questions. You will have 4 options. Similarly, message question also has 4 options. You will not find out the critical message, find out the essential message, and then they will give 2 statements and then 1 is correct, 2 is correct. Just assumption or inference mein hota hai. Message mein you don't have that. So what does that mean? It means very simple. A passage will have only one message. A passage can have multiple inference. A passage can have multiple assumption. But a passage will have one crux. A passage will have one message. And this is also important. A passage will, so like we know a passage will have one crux, we know a passage will have one message. And what did we discuss yesterday? When a passage has that particular crux, that is a spine, if you remove that spine, your passage will fall. If you remove that message, your passage will fall. Okay? Try to understand from this point of view that while you have read the passage, when you are reading the passage, author is trying to communicate. जब भी ये question आएगा ना कि what does the passage say, always you keep in mind what is the author trying to communicate. ठीक है? अच्छा, another thing. If you remember, I told you yesterday that for every directive, there is a particular form of passage, right? Crux वाले passage में क्या था कि the theme will get repeated, the themes get repeated, ठीक है? In message passages, you will find वो emotion रहता है, ठीक है? In message-based question, there has to be a conflict, there will be a problem. If there is a not, like whenever you write, if you're not a journalist, you will be writing because there is something that you want to communicate, right? There is a problem and you want to communicate. So a passage will have a problem. कोई भी आप passage उठा लीजिए. In message-based question I'm talking about. It will talk about a problem, but the problem might be very subtle, right? But it will talk about a problem, and either it gives a solution or it does not give a solution. That's not important, but it will talk about a problem. So like in message-based question, the important understanding that a passage will have is a problem. Okay? Okay. So what is a message-based question? A message is a broader lesson, warning or insight the author wants the reader to internalize after reading the passage, which I told you right now. That once you have read, so it's a broader lesson, right? So if in the option, it's a very specific option. If it's an example, like if they're giving one example, you can safely eliminate that particular option as incorrect because it will be, the option will be a bit broader, the message will be a bit broader. Okay? Warning or insight, like as I've said, okay? The author wants reader to internalize, you have listen to it. Okay, what he is trying to say, like you have to lay open your ears, right? So a message asks what is the author trying to convey to the reader, what lesson, warning, advice or takeaway emerges from the passage. But this is it. Okay? This is it. Okay. So as I said, what is the difference between crux and message? In case of crux or main idea, what is the passage about? Right? It is topic centric. Take a topic centric in the sense that particular that theme, right, which is getting repeated again and again. And in case of message, what the author wants to convey. Okay? Okay. Now, how we will solve the passage-based question? Isme na, like in case of crux, we understood that we have to find the tone, we have to find the summary. Isme, we have to do one another step. Now, this is important, right? So first, we have to identify the problem. The moment you identify the problem, the moment you identify what the problem that author is trying to communicate, and it's very easy. वो ज़्यादातर passage के ऊपर ही रहता है, ठीक है? In the beginning only, because you will not give the message and then you will, at the end, you will not write the problem, right? In the beginning only, the author tries to, you take any question from 2014 onwards, 13 onwards, you will find the passage-based question, the message-based question. The problem is highlighted initially. You identify that problem, okay? The moment you have identified the problem, then obviously we will do the same thing, that tone wala thing, right? We have to identify the tone. Now this is very important. This is the difference between a crux and passage and message. In crux, what we have understood that the tone will be similar, the passage tone will be similar to the option tone. Yahan par not necessarily always. 90% of the times it happens. 90 to 95% of the times. So here we can have a critical passage, but the answer, the option might be a bit prescriptive in nature. Okay? So people who have not present, so the tones are like critical, cautionary, reformist, and prescription are same. So critical is like the passage will be very, very negative in nature, right? Problems, right? cautionary in the sense like it is warning. Okay, reformist and precautionary are the same. Reformist and precautionary means that like you have to take these steps. You should do. You need to do this, right? And then there is another analytical. Analytical will be like good and bad. It will be an interplay of good and bad. Okay. Okay. So identify the problem response and then the tone. Now we have to make a summary in this case also. Not a summary. You have to ask the question that what is the author trying to say. Now this is very important. And this like if you do this one, you will not get a message-based question incorrect. You have to underline the evaluative words. This is the only new thing that you have to do. You have to underline the evaluative words. Evaluative words, those sentences which has these words, ought to, must, needs. So as I said, na, कि a message-based question will emote. ऐसे वाले जो words है ना, it emotes. So if in a sentence has these words, almost always that is the message that the author is trying to say. This is not hint, but people will sell it as tricks. This is common sense. If I am writing, I will be using these words as what? Something which is like I want to communicate to you, right? So the message will lie here. So these words signal a message, not a fact. Okay? So it can be so with practice you will understand what are evaluative words are, what are emotive words are, and we'll do that. Like today the exercise will be only that. Okay? So once you have understood that particular line, it can be one line, it can be two lines, right? That these are emotive words. Then what you do is, based on those lines, you frame a summary. In yesterday's class, we were framing our summary based on what? Those themes which were getting repeated. Here we'll make a summary based on what? How like those sentences which has this emotive words, or those words which communicate message. Okay? The author wants us to, and then you have to ask this question. So this is a summary. The author wants us to understand. This is the summary, right? If you answer this, you don't have to look anywhere. You will directly come to the right answer. Okay? And if you are not ready, then again read the passage. Focus should be on the passage, because what was our goal yesterday, as I said, if we do 22, 23 questions, our goal is to get all the questions correct. If you're giving 40 minutes, 35, 40 minutes for your passage, right? And in those 40 minutes, let's say that you want to do 20, 22 questions, which is absolutely possible, because देखो, time, I think I told you, in crux questions, in message questions, ज़्यादा time नहीं लगता है, because it's a very precise process. Time, implication, inference, assumption, वहाँ पर time लगता है, because you have to be very careful, right? So these kind of questions you can solve within like 40 seconds, 50 seconds. Okay? But again, the process is important. Okay? Okay. So the correct options are, in this case, these are balanced, they are advisory in nature, reflect author's concern or warning, broad enough to apply beyond examples. Again, we discussed that yesterday, because it's a message, right? It will not be about one message, one example. It will be like something which is holistic in nature. Okay? And this, I think you know the common traps which we usually use to eliminate those two options. Okay? And you will find in message-based such questions, जहाँ पर आप दो options तो निकाल पाओगे. Again, you will be stuck with those another two options, right? Okay. Shall we start? Okay. We start with this. Okay. So, like the job will be to first read it, identify the problem, identify the tone, then we'll make a summary. Done? Okay. So what will be the tone? So today there is a need for new agenda for the banking and the non-banking financial services that does not exclude the common man. Okay. So like, so what will be the tone here? cautionary and like can be prescriptive also because need hai, right? ठीक है? Okay, what is the problem here?
Inclusion of common man in
Innovation in
banking.
banking.
Banking reforms. ठीक है? ठीक है? So exclusion of common man from bond and banking, exactly that was the problem that you highlighted. Tone is reformist advisory in the sense like again I'm advising, I'm prescribing, right? Message is financial service must prioritize inclusion. Can we say this? ठीक है? This is your answer. अभी क्या करना है? Whichever options is closer to this is your answer. ठीक है? This will be meet, not meant, meet. ठीक है? Done? ठीक है? Okay. So what is the tone? Why it is cautionary? Right. Excellent. So can we identify the problem in this? Problem क्या है इसका?
Food scarcity.
Excellent, brilliant. ठीक है? So like analytical in the sense like cautionary and it is to the form of prescriptive. So we can, ठीक है? Unsustainable dietary trends, I mean population growth, we can have this as the problem, right? Message is meat and dairy will take greater toll on the world resource. We can have this as the message which is the author is trying to communicate. ठीक है? Before we go there, how did we come to that? Let's underline those emotive words. अब बताइए. Okay. Need to feed. This is like very emotive, right? Excellent. Urgency. So from this line, what the author is communicating, what message the author is trying to communicate?
That is probably a change in food habits is the need of the hour.
Excellent. Then the foods we choose to eat in the coming decades will have dramatic ramifications of the planet. Which is the emotive word? Dramatic. ठीक है? Dramatic ramifications. ठीक है? Simply put. Excellent. Simply put. मतलब एकदम सीधा बात. Like simply put, right? Simply put, a diet that revolves around meat and dairy, a way of eating that is on the rise throughout the developing world, will take a greater toll on the world's resources than one that revolves around unrefined grains, nuts, fruits and vegetables. ठीक है? So we understood the problem, we identified the tone, right? And then we know the summary. ठीक है? Now let's see the options. It is A. ठीक है? This is 2023 question. ठीक है? Like if you had not understood the passage, I can guarantee you that you would have marked option B. इसका reason पता है क्या? इसका reason is this, that here it is mentioned a greater toll on that resources than one that revolves around refined grains, nuts, fruits and vegetables. Grains, nuts, fruits and vegetables, right? Grains, nuts, fruits and vegetables. This is the trap. These are called half truths, right? ठीक है? And why option B is incorrect?
Because it's never mentioned that the best for the
Developing countries, right? Actually, like again, commonsensically, it's not right. Broader message is not developing countries. Actually, it is developed countries where there is more protein-rich, more protein-oriented food, right? Like for us, it's ठीक है. And why human beings change the food habits from time to time, irrespective of the health concerns? Like why this is incorrect? Option C.
It's not there. There is just the title.
Absolutely. So this and always categorize, like when you are doing the wrong options, always categorize why this option C is incorrect. So outside knowledge we can say why option D is incorrect. From global perspective we still do not know which type of diet is best for us. yesterday we discussed finality, इसको ना finality बोलते हैं, ठीक है. जब भी कोई ऐसे finality वाले क्वेश्चन ऑप्शंस आए, वो फिर आपको देखना भी नहीं है, वो गलत ही मार्क कर दीजिए. बिकॉज from a global perspective, we still do not know which type of diet is best for us, right? Like it's not
It is not about the diet, it is about resources.
resources. Yes, that is also true, right? So there will be multiple. देखो, for getting one option correct, ना, you will have one reason. For when UPC makes incorrect, there are multiple reasons. So that is the reason why the faith should be in the. Yesterday I gave a huge lectures on like 10 minutes. Ki why it should be passage-led question solving, not option-led question solving. ठीक है, चलो. Move on to the next one. So this is tricky. This was, I think, 2021 question. Done? ठीक है. So what will be the problem and tone? हाँ, अभी tone, like it, you know. So in message-based question, tones are not very important because the options will not always relate the tone, but problems are important. What is the problem over here? Right. So global warming, the primary issue is global warming that is leading to. So this you understood. Now let's underline the emotive words. अब बताइए. First, during the summer in the Arctic Ocean, sea ice has been melting earlier and faster, and the winter freeze has been coming later. So excellent emotive words. ठीक है, guys, like online guys also, like type in the emotive words, right? Emotive words in the sense like those words which emotes a message. So has been melting earlier and faster, and the winter freeze has been coming later. I cannot. So from here, can I draw a message? The message is that climate change is like wreaking havoc. In the last 3 decades, the extent of summer ice has declined with about 30%. Declined by about that term. Declined about 30%. ठीक है, ये वाली. Just imagine, like about 30%. So it's using data to communicate. Everything is not. The lengthening period of summer melt threatens to undermine the whole Arctic food web, atop which stands polar bear. Right. Threatens to, and this is a very strong emotive word. And whatever message comes after this emotive word, अब मान लो कि यही है, ठीक है, to undermine, ठीक है, the Arctic food web atop which stand polar bears. I'll give you another like tip. देखो. So we solved we'll come to the option later, but this is very important. This will also help you to come to the answer quickly. What are we seeing in the passages? कि जो problems है ऊपर mention किया रहता है, and the solution or like the message is in message-based questions. No, it is all like 95% of the times, even more than that, the message is in the last 2 sentences. The message is in the last 2 sentences. ठीक है? ठीक है? Again, 95% of the times. We cannot take it as an absolute. ठीक है? चलो. So, problem ecosystem threat from rapid Arctic ice melt, I designate this as a problem. Message is Arctic ice loss destabilize the food web, thus threatening polar bears. ठीक है? Because last, what do we have? That summer is like there is a summer melt threatens to undermine the whole Arctic food web, atop which stands polar bear. ठीक है? ठीक है. See the options. D. And I can guarantee you that very few people would have chosen D. Like C also seems correct. Now what is the problem with C? That is there. Acha, there is another way UPSC.
That is not what the author is trying to say.
Yes, like to a degree, you are right that but there is another reason why. Let's understand this. Now this is another way UPSC frames incorrect statement, or like ज़्यादातर questions inference और messages में ऐसे incorrect statements होते हैं. causality, right? Without presence of polar bears, the food chains in Arctic region will disappear. एक तो finality है. The second is causality, in the sense, what is the cause? Cause is your climate change, and effect is what? Effect is your polar bear disappearing. But ऊपर में causality क्या है? Causality is that without cause is the disappearing of polar bear, and effect will be the like food chain affecting the food chain. That, so this is mismatch of causality. ठीक है, ये भी आप ध्यान रखिए. So as we go along, I'll tell you how UPSC frame incorrect statements. Keep these things in mind. The PPTs में रहेंगे, like you can write it also. Like causality is something that also UPSC uses to frame incorrect statements. ठीक है. Now why option B? तो everybody knows, like option B, why it is incorrect, because can be shifted to South Pole to ensure their survival. मतलब outside knowledge. ठीक है, मतलब there is no discussion of shifting. ठीक है, climate change has caused Arctic summer to be short but temperature to be high. So polar like threatens to undermine the whole Arctic food web, atop which stands polar bear. How it, like this is the message which is being communicated, not just there is a rise in temperature and the Arctic summer is falling short.
Broad enough to go beyond examples.
Yes, like so like you were saying कि like ये polar bear so example होगा, ठीक है. But अब एक चीज देखिए यहाँ पर, अच्छा, the lengthening period of summer melt threatens, as we said, कि it has to be emotive. So here the author is very emotional about that polar bears will be vanishing, and that is signified by this threatens to undermine the whole Arctic food web, atop which stands polar bears. Right, you're right. It should not be particularly about one example, but here you see the most emotive word is threatens, and after that what comes is polar bear. So polar bear is the focus over here. Okay. So I'll just repeat once message question. So message wala section is that identify the problem. The moment we identify the problem, your 50% of the job is done, and a message passage will have a problem. Like it is, if there is a message question, there will be a problem, right? Then we'll try to understand the tone. But again, like crux, the tone will be similar to the option. In message-based questions, there might not be similar. 90% of the times it might be similar, but again, that 10% we have seen that example. The tone might not be similar, right? Then what we will do is this: we have to make the summary again. Like what is the author trying to say? Before we do that, what is the author trying to say? We'll highlight those sentences, right? Those important words which give stress, right? Which give emotes the message. Like as I've said, therefore, if, but, yet, as a terms, right? And you have identified well. Simply put, somebody yesterday praised simply put. Like these are the terms which are like very important, and the message will be in these sentences. Then we make again the summary of it. Once we made the summary of it, that is again the summary is the answer. And again, one of the hint in message-based question, the correct option will be from the end of the passage, last two lines, 3 lines, it will be from the end of the passage, right? And we have seen that, right? And what is the rationale? The rationale is simple, because it's a message-based question. The message to upar nahi rahega. You write, the message will be at the end, problem and then the message, okay? Okay. So shall we move on to, okay. So imply and corollary, okay. Like I'll tell you the trend. ज़्यादा questions नहीं आ रहे imply or corollary to this year 2025 one question came, so you might expect one or two questions from corollary, right? Imply like 1 or 2 questions come, right? If you see 2025 paper, if you have analyzed it properly, 6 questions came from your sorry, not 6 questions, 7 questions came from your core, that is crux, central idea and main idea. Okay. Message questions were around 4 or 5, around those many questions. 13 questions came from assumption. That is the challenging part. and no question came from inference. एक भी question inference से नहीं आया था. 24 में 4 questions came from inference, right? So your 50% is these questions, imply question. There were no imply questions. 23 last question, imply के question 23 और 24 में था. 24 में एक question था. 23 I think 1 or 2 questions were there, right? But it's also important. It's easy. It's easy. Again, it won't take much time to like solve these questions. As I've said previously, time consuming is your inference questions and assumption question. And Saturday we'll be doing assumption questions. तो वो clarify हो जाएगा. ठीक है. So again, 1 or 2 questions come. Again, we have to follow the same process. Follow the same process, we'll get it correct. ठीक है. Okay. So how to identify कि it is an imply question? You will have these words. Implies best reflects what is implied and message implied. ये 3 रहेगा. In these 3, we'll follow the same process. We will not follow the same process for practical implication, right? We'll not follow the same process for practical implication, right? I'll tell you the reason why. I'll tell you the reason why. Practical implication, like in day-to-day life, when there is a new technology, when there is a new invention, when there is a new discovery, don't we use this term? इसका practical implication क्या है? Right? We'll explain it. So it is this practical implication, even the word this is there, don't confuse it with these words. This is completely different. This is very important. Like you have to keep this in mind. Okay? If you come across this practical implication and if you use this process, वो गलत हो जाएगा. And I will show it with this UPSC passage why it is different. Because like again, UPSC when they frame passages, they have reasons. Okay? But in these 3 cases, we'll follow the same process. Okay? Okay. So what does implies or implied? So this is your present tense. Implied is your past tense, right? What does implied mean in CSAT? Implied refers to what logically flows from the passage without being directly stated. Now this is very important. Now when I said in case of crux questions and message questions, what did I say? That in crux questions, message questions, the content cannot be from outside. Have I said not? Did I say that? Like whatever it is, it has to be there in the passage. Imply wale question में ना, it's not always so. Imply वाले जो questions, the options जब रहेंगे, there is a possibility where you will have some word, some content, like some different word from outside. We have to be a bit careful of that. We'll not remove that particular option because it's an outside knowledge. We used that to remove. So we have to be very careful of that, right? So implied refers what logically flows from the passage without being directly stated. So it's not there in the passage, but it logically flows. So let's say I'll give you 2 sentences. Carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and be patient. Carbon dioxide from the atmosphere was sucked in by a scientific process. It was mixed with water, and whatever the compound was formed, that compound was put inside a carbonaceous rock. Okay? Let's say this is a passage. Now, out of 4 options, easily we can eliminate 2 options. Let's fight over these 2 options. So in option number 1, if it says that this is like, what does this passage imply? And it says that this particular phenomena is useful for sequestering carbon. Second, this particular phenomenon has been successful in sequestering carbon, or has been successful in reducing atmospheric carbon. Of these 2 options, which will be correct? A. Excellent. Now, most of the students will eliminate option A because sequestering carbon is there. It's an outside knowledge. But implication means this. So it's a logical consequence. What was defined was not that it will reduce carbon dioxide from atmosphere. What was said in the passage was it was a process. Excellent. Okay? Clear? Okay. Okay. So implied refers what logically flow from the passage without being directly stated. So what is a key principle? It has to logically follow. It has to have a logical consequence. Now you will ask me, what is this logical concept? How do I logically come to it? Right? Now this is what UPSC is like testing, right? This is what UPSC is testing. That you are going to be an officer, and if you read a memo and you cannot deduce logically, even though it's in the domain of philosophy, but basic logical deduction you have to have, and we'll understand how to do that. Achha, another hint in case of message wale question, ki the answer is again at the end. And it is, don't you think it's very reasonable also? Imply like when do you come to an understanding this is implied? You come to an understanding this is implied when you have read the entire passage or end mein rahega. So the hint is like message. Here also the hint is the passage, like your right option hoega, it will be at the end of the passage. Okay? Okay. So like I'll explain practical implication abhi. So we'll okay. Now practical implication is a real world consequence or actionable outcome. As I've said, there has been an invention of, let's say, Majorna chip. Right? Which company invented Majorna? अरे भाई 2025 का PYQ है और वो स्टेटमेंट भी गलत था. They mentioned Amazon Web Service. Microsoft. It was Microsoft, right? And hence PYQ is important, right? So they have invented Majorna chip, right? Now when they have invented Majorna chip, what first, like as a basic thing, what question come to your mind? What is the practical implication of Majorna chip? ऐसा आता है ना कि मतलब ये Majorna chip से होता क्या है? What is the so in case of practical implication, what is the hint? The options will always be action oriented. अगर 4 options में से 3 options ना अगर action oriented नहीं रहा, if it is not that, if the option has to have, it must do this, right? If it's not action oriented, if it is finality, if it is critical, like you just close your eyes and you remove those options. It has to be action oriented. So practical implication has to be action oriented. Now that which naturally, obviously, like naturally flows from the argument, right? So what is the use case of Majorna chip? Usse kya hota hai? What happens with Majorna chip? Anybody? Huh? अच्छा ठीक है. हाँ बढ़ जाते हैं. Like the speed increases, right? Yeah. It's a quantum chip, right? It's a quantum chip, right? Okay. So a practical implication is a real world consequence or an actionable outcome, right? Achha, another thing that you have to keep in mind, that in practical implications, in imply wale question pe, you will have only 4 options. Rarely they will, like, because ek passage se ek hi you can imply only one thing, right? But in practical implication, you can have statements. You will have number of statements. So aapko kya karna hai? You have to verify those statements against the passage. When we'll be solving one question, we'll understand. Okay? So one line mental rule you must remember. Implied, what must logically follow? What must logically follow? And practical implication is what will realistically happen. Majorna chip ka, what is the realistic use cases of it? Okay? Okay. So the single most important difference, now people will say that what is the difference between core and message? So core and message, what does the passage say? In case of core, what does the passage say? And in case of message, what is conveyed by the author? I think we discussed those things, right? Imply ask what must be true if the passage is true. Again, logical. So outside knowledge can come in. Outside knowledge can come in. Okay. So this shift the meaning. So in first message-based questions and in case of crux-based questions, it was the meaning of the passage. In case of imply question, it is what is the logical consequences. Okay. Clear? Shall we move on to Abhi? Okay. Okay. So now what I want you to do is this. Now I'll briefly tell you. So you read the passage, and as I've said that we have to know what is the logical consequence, like how to make that logical consequence, right? One hint I will tell you, and the more you solve questions, actually it will be so ingrained in you that the moment you read, you will understand what is logical consequence. Logical consequence means that, so it's in this passage, how many sentences are there total? Five. So sentence like three sentences, right? I think four hai. Acha, one from here. Acha, haan. There is this. Then you have one from here. It ends here. It ends starts here. It ends here. Like four sentences, right? Four hai, five hai. Acha, five hai. Acha, five. Alright, theek hai. Whatever it is, 5 sentences are there, right? So how to, as we did it in crux and we did it in message, we have to make that summary. So यहाँ पर हमें logical conclusion लाना है. So how do you do that? You have to take information from all the sentences, almost all the sentences, to create that. And this is why this is tricky. We have to create logical conclusion means that we have to take information from all the sentences in order to create that that logical conclusion. ठीक है? So like पहले आप read कर लीजिए इसको. Done? Read? Okay. So veneers means what? Face. This means face. ठीक है? ये Latin word है. चलो, not important. Palatable. Presentable. ठीक है? Palatable is like palate. ठीक है? Okay. So how do you make this logical conclusion? So what climate change will undeniably do is cause or amplify events that hasten the reduction of resources. So initially, what information can you draw from this line?
Climate change results in the reduction of resources.
Absolutely. Okay. This one, everybody agrees to this? Okay. Okay. Remember this, I'm not writing. Competition over these diminishing resources would ensue in form of political or even violent conflict. This one from here. Conflict. ठीक है, पहले था climate change, resource हो रहा है, diminishing will lead to. This is logical. यही है logical conclusion. Right? Then, resource-based conflicts have rarely been overt and thus difficult to isolate. Overt in the sense like it's overt, which is very frontal, right? It's very visible, right? Resource-based conflicts have rarely been overt and are thus difficult to isolate. Right, absolutely. Instead, they take on veneers in the shape or face that appear more politically palatable. Means?
Instead of stopping the conflict, we have to face that conflict and have to do something.
So this means that the reason behind the conflict is actually hidden. There's a difference. Can you equate it with anything that is happening now? Current affairs mein. Venezuela, Iraq war, WMD, right? So these are all like best case examples, right? Conflicts over resources like water are often cloaked in guise of identity or ideology. Same thing, right? Same thing. Conflicts over resources. So what is the logical conclusion that you can come from here? Logical conclusion in the sense like whatever we have repeated, we can repeat that also. Like from every sentence, what information at least. lack of resources often leads to consequences of political nature. But can I say that climate change leading to reduction of resources leading to conflict? Can I say this? Okay. So basically, logical conclusion will be environmental degradation and climate change contribute to resource stress, which turns fuels political and social conflict. This can be your logical conclusion. Okay. देखिए अभी why not A? Another reason, resource based conflicts are always climate change का बात ही नहीं हुआ है, right? Now we will not eliminate because ये always है, ठीक है? It's extreme, I know, but again our goal is not to trips. Our goal is that we'll follow the process. Process में क्या था? Like we understood initially, beginning में, climate change is reducing resources. Resources is leading to conflicts. Clear? ठीक है? ठीक. Next. Acha, I'll tell you another, before we read this. I think I told you now, out of 28, 29 questions, as a question, there will be such questions which, like we have to leave those questions, because in that time now, we cannot take a call whether the process that I'll be following will lead to the right answer. As well questions, where the passages are very short. These are very lucrative. ठीक है, लेकिन these are very dangerous also. 2025 में एक question आया था, so that question did not have any directive, right? It's like I'm pretty sure like 90% of the students would have made that questions incorrect. ठीक है, तो ऐसे वाले question, but like I want to take this difficult question. This is 2022 or 23. I want to take this difficult question because process को test करते हैं. ठीक है, yeah, please go ahead. Done? Simple. Okay. So let's start. Logical conclusion ढूंढते हैं इसका. In a democratic state where a high degree of political maturity of the people obtains, the conflict between the will of the sovereign law-making body and the organized will of the people seldom occurs. एक ही sentence है. There is one sentence, right? But still we have to find a logical conclusion. ठीक है. So first is, so like it's talking about a democratic state, right? Where a high degree of political maturity, I can break it from here, ठीक है? Where a high degree of political maturity of the people obtains. So what is it talking about? Democracy है, and then what it's talking about? Mature and functional democracy. Scandinavia, I'll not say US. Mature तो है, लेकिन functional नहीं है, ठीक है? I can quote India also, but people will raise issue. ठीक है? Where a high degree of political maturity of the people obtains. Scandinavian countries, right? Then let's see here. The conflict between the will of the sovereign making body and the organized will of the people seldom occurs. इसका मतलब क्या होगा? This that is true. Excellent. Then in tandem. Brilliant. ठीक है. So what is the logical conclusion? What can be the logical conclusion?
In a mature democracy, people and the law-making body is seldom conflict.
They seldom have conflicts. Can we agree to this? Can we agree to this? Right? Can we agree to this? Okay. In a mature democracy, the use of force in the exercise of sovereignty is reduced. Same, right? ठीक है. Because there is less conflict and right, people were given power, so the force is reduced. ठीक है. And from now on, I'll not show the logical conclusion. You will, ठीक है. D answer. D is the answer. Now, why it is important, and this is very important. Why, and if they will not frame a message question and they will not frame a crux question in this way. They are talking about force, right? This is the nature of This is the nature of implied question. Like, did they mention anywhere about force in the passage? Right. But here it is talking about force is narrowed down. This is implication. Outside knowledge is brought. Right. Now, यहाँ पर सभी जगह पर, like in all the 4 options, there is force. That is true. But you will find also such an implied question where there will be 2 forces, like 2 options where force will be mentioned and 2 where forces will not be mentioned. You will eliminate those force वाला option because अरे force बाहर से आ रहा है. No. ठीक है? ठीक है? Okay, we'll move on to the next question. हाँ. In a mature democracy, use of force is irrelevant in the actual exercise of seldom occurs. Like, it is a kind of a finality. This is a kind of finality. Yes, and how it is ending matters. मतलब ध्यान रखिए how the passage is ending. ठीक है? Okay. So corollary will corollary में ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं है. Total there were only 8 questions in corollary in UPSC history. There were only 8 questions, and 2025 मिलाकर like there are 9 questions. Right? Only 9 questions. And it's a very simple. So how many have maths background over here? Maths? Actually, you have maths background. So you will be better understanding this corollary. What does this corollary mean? It's actually a mathematical term. You also have maths. Somebody, you also had maths. Okay, maths. Huh. Yes. It's part of, excellent. Corollary is nothing but, it's like when we think a theorem, right? It's just an extension of that particular theorem. If the theorem is true, corollary has to be true. Right? Best example will be, can like one mathematical example, can you give? Let's not go into the mathematics part. That's not my domain. Okay. So here we will take the passage to be a theorem. It is true. And corollary has to be true. So again, what we will do is, do you remember how we solved the crux questions? There we have what we were doing is that we were making summary, right? And in implied question also, like we're making summary and we're making that logical conclusion. We have to do the same thing here, right? And what comes after that? That is your answer. Chalo, dekh lete hain. A corollary is reading comprehension is a conclusion that must follow naturally and inevitably from what the passage states. It's not very different. Imply and corollary are almost same, but there is a difference. In imply, there will be some word or some information, जैसे वो force वाला, which will like they can have those in option. Corollary, in most of the cases, it's very so most of the time बाहर के knowledge नहीं लाते, ठीक है? Most of the times, ठीक है? अभी I cannot give you like proper example because there are only 9 questions to choose from, ठीक है? So proper pattern नहीं निकलता है out of 9 questions, ठीक है? चलो ठीक है. So step 1 is you first have to log the author's opinion here, final position, right? What does the author finally establish as true? ठीक है? So this is the first thing. And the second thing is that if the passage is 100% correct, is this an unavoidable outcome? Right? ठीक है? चलो ठीक है. एक question solve करते हैं and then things will get clear. So first we have to log the author's opinion, author's position. Done? ठीक है? Yeah. So what is the author's opinion over here? Can we relate? Can we relate? We can. चलो ठीक है. We'll not say those things. Yeah. ठीक है. So like you can relate, right? Like we can like focus on author's position over here, right? ठीक है. C. It's undeniable. ठीक है. Okay. This one. ठीक है. So what is the author's opinion here? Okay, and like as many as 2 billion people worldwide depend on them. So that is also important. It's not only that climate change is affecting small farmers, but as many as 2 billion people worldwide depend on for their food and livelihood. Smallholder farmers in India produce 41% of the country's food grains and other food items and contribute to local and national food security. ये भी देखना है. Yes. So here we have yes. So primarily small farmers, how they are important for our food security, and it's getting and these small farmers are affected by the climate-induced change. Like, can we have this? Right. Okay. Right, and this, look, poor countries have little role to play. We can remove this, right? Due to large number of farmers household, India will have food security problem in the foreseeable future. It's not mentioned over there, right? Only small holder farmers in India can ensure food security. Again, this is extreme, and like it's not talked about that. And most importantly, like environment is an issue, and beginning environment is sure. Okay. Last question. Okay. Done? Okay. So what is the author's opinion over here? And this is very commonsensical also. And this is very, like, we know what is author's opinion. दोनों चाहिए, right? And I will tell you, ऐसे वाले question ना 4 questions have come. 4 questions जहाँ पर like passages were on monetary policy and fiscal policy working together. And उसका answers, you will be shocked. Always is same. Always is same. Answer? A. Absolutely. Now, what is the close option? Option B, right? Should regulate financial markets and institutions closely, right? People might think, but somebody have locked onto the author's opinion. The author's opinion is nothing but that monetary policy and fiscal policy, they should work together. Okay? They should work together. 4 questions have come here, and in the options, always in those 4 questions, you will have they both should work together. Okay? When such questions come, if you're fortunate enough to get such question, you can just close your eyes and you can mark. We have done crux, we have done crux, main idea, central idea. These are all same. We have done imply, right? Implications we have done, and we have done message-based question. In these questions, as I've said, the focus should be on the passages, right? In inference also, we'll focus on the passage. But here options are important as well, right? We will eliminate based on options as well, right? And you have to keep certain things in mind, and these are important things that in 2025, no inference questions were asked. So in all probability, you will be getting inference questions this year, because 21, 22, very few inference questions were asked. 23, good number of questions were asked. 24, very good number of questions were asked. 25, they did not ask any questions. So 26, there is a probability that they may ask good number of inference questions. So it is very important that we understand inference well, right? Before we go into and understand inference, another thing you have to keep in mind that somebody asked last class that in a passage, they give a passage and then they ask 2 questions, right? I can guarantee you that in a passage, if they give a passage, they will not ask crux question and a message question at the same time. No, they will not ask. They might ask us crux question and an inference question. Crux question or an assumption question. Message question or an inference question, message question or an assumption question, right? In such case, now this is very important, if they give a passage, they ask inference question before, and then they ask, let's say, crux question, or first you do the crux question. मान लीजिए कि question number 20, there is a passage, question number 21 is Inference, question number 22 is crux. So which one will, same passage ke. So you will be doing which? I'll tell you the logic also. You will be doing the crux question pehle, message question pehle, then you do your inference question or assumption question. The reason is simple. The reason is, in every, like in case of crux and main idea and message questions, what did we learn? Message, like the passage is very important, right? The passage is of utmost importance. And we understand that we get, the moment we make the summary, we get to know the theme of it. Theme nikal kar aata hai. The moment we know the theme, the moment we understand the theme, that theme is the answer. In case of inference, it is not always the case, but if you know the theme, because you will be solving the theme in the crux question and message wala question, it will help you in inference question and assumption question. Till here it is clear. Did you get it? Clear? Okay.
So can we ask inference and assumption?
No. Inference and assumption they can ask. Yes. Inference and assumption, good. Inference and assumption they can ask, because do you remember the last class, what did I say? That so if this is a passage, right, assumption is this, inference is this. Okay? Clear? Now in a passage they can ask first assumption question and then inference question. Then which one would you do first if they ask assumption question and inference question in a single passage? Inference. Because you don't know as of now what inference is. Because inference is, you have read the passage and then what comes after the passage, right? So again, passage is important. You have read the passage, what comes after the passage. So here in inference, you have to know the theme as well. That we did in message, that we did in crux. We understood the theme, the summary. So pehle inference karna hai. Whatever happens, assumption, in every case, assumption has to be done at the end. ठीक है? Okay. So what is inference? An inference is a statement or understanding drawn by the reader, which is you. Statement or an understanding drawn by the reader, which is you, through logical reasoning from the information explicitly given in the passage. There is a passage, the logical understanding from the passage, which is drawn by you, is inference. Let's understand in a very simple manner. You read newspaper, you watch news, right? And then you draw an inference, whatever the inference is, you draw an inference, right? Now inference might vary from student to student, from person to person, right? But nonetheless, you draw an inference. You watch a debate, you draw an inference, right? It is your understanding of what is happening. Imply mein kya ho raha tha? Imply mein, it is again a logical conclusion, but in imply, it is the author's logical conclusion, which is not stated. In inference, it is your logical conclusion that you have to draw. So when we'll be solving the question, you will understand. Till here, it is clear. We did imply. Imply, what did we say? That what is the logical conclusion that you draw from what the author has written or from what the passage is there. That is what author is implying. In inference, it is what you understand. That is very important. Okay? Right. So as I've said, comes from the reader's reasoning, and hence you make mistake in inference. And you will see, and UPSC does this, they will have those, easily you can eliminate two options. Those two options. There it is testing your logical mindset. Here they are testing your UPSC caliber as an officer. Can you deduce from what the passage is? Implication or imply is embedded in author's statement or argument. Okay, this is very important. Like when you solve question, keep this in mind. Okay? Okay. Now I'll explain what an inference is. Let's say the statement is this: the roads are wet and people are carrying umbrellas. Right? Inference is it has rained recently. Can we draw to this inference? We can draw to this inference. Like, because the passage does not say it has rained. It is wet, you have an umbrella. right? You are expecting that it might rain and hence you have taken the umbrella. Or the roads are wet, people are carrying umbrella, it is raining, you are taking an umbrella. Okay? So there are two inferences here. Two inferences. There is a third inference also. Can you say? The roads are wet and people are carrying umbrellas. One is it has rained recently, or it is raining recently too. There is a third inference also. Anybody? The catch is in the rain. The catch is in the roads are wet. This wala part. It might not be rain, it can snow also. Right? So so in this statement, aren't there number of inferences? Okay? But in case of implication, there will only be one implication because of the author. Okay? Okay, the passage does not say it rained. The reader combined clues. You have hidden clues, and you have to be Sherlock Holmes or Agatha Christie, whichever you like. You have read Agatha Christie, anybody? Not read. You must. Okay. So you have to find those clues. The moment you get to the clues, you underline, you circle it, you will directly come to the right answer. Okay? Okay. 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 So one line summary is, inference is reading between the lines using logic. Inference is reading between the lines using logic. Okay? Shall we move? Okay. Okay. Now, this, as we said, since a passage has many inferences, this is very important. And this will help you to solve quickly and correctly. Since passage has many inferences, you don't know for sure which will be the right inference. तो जल्दी से आपको passage पढ़ना है with the proper, we'll understand proper process, and you have to read the options quickly and eliminate those two options which will never be, like, वो नहीं हो सकता. And trust me, like, you will have those two options, and we'll do today only. It cannot be the answer. We'll eliminate those two options, and the two options that we are remained with, we'll check it against the passage. Okay? So since a passage has many inferences, it is often hard to predict the correct inference by just reading the passage, unlike crux and message. So you have to जल्दी से आपको option में जाना है. ठीक है? Okay. So what is the process of reading? Read the passage and make short notes. Look, initially, and trust me, guys, like, please, today we will not do probably short notes, but when you are solving at home, when you are reading the passage, like, just make short notes what you have understood from that one line or two line. Please do that. In that way, what will happen initially, you will take time. And remember, in the first class, what did I say? Time is nothing but function of continuous practice. Time will come down. But if you, abhi ye itna jo process hai, like in the examination hall, you don't have to do this. But you have to do it right now, in the month of February. So that in the month of March, April, May, you know for sure that the process is so ingrained, I don't have to write those things. But it is important now to do that, right? Read the passage and make short notes initially written at the side of the sentence or sentences. Like 1 or 2 sentences, you make short notes ki ye 2 sentences ye bolna chahta hai. ठीक है? Then again, understand the theme for every, again, our belief is in passages first. Understand the theme. What does the passage say? Focus how the passage ends. Again, this, in case of message you have seen, in case of imply you have seen, in case of, and you will not believe, UPSC, and we have seen all the inferences, we have analyzed all the inferences, 90% of the inference, how it ends. The answer is how it is ending. Last one line, last 2 lines. Last one line, last 2 lines. Imply में भी वैसे था, message में भी वैसे था, in case of inference also. Because we can draw inference how? We can draw inference only when we have read the entire passage. The author has written the entire passage, right? Now, this is again very important. Now, you will, like, in your imply question, message question, and in your crux question, you will have options A, B, C, D. In case of inference, you will have either options or inference or statements, and then they will say only 1, only 2. If you have noticed, uska reason hai because there are number of inferences. Assumptions में भी बहुत सारे assumptions हो सकता है. So there can be number of inferences. Because there are number of inferences, it's not A, B, C, D. It is like statement 1, statement 2, statement 3. ठीक है. तो in case of options, the right inference will be found in at least, it will resonate in at least more than one line, 2 lines, 3 lines. It will have its findings in 2 or 3 lines. Right? ठीक है. In case of options. In case of statement, it is usually that you have to verify that particular statement against one particular sentence of the passage. When we'll solve, it will get clear. Abhi, like I understand it's not getting clear. When we'll solve questions, it will get clear. Okay. Okay. So how to deal with the options? First, read the options well without don't eliminate options. Okay. Just read all the 4 options and then eliminate the options. And I will tell you what are the basis of elimination also. Right. Then verify the correct option with the passage once you have eliminated. So like the moment you have those 2 options and you feel that this option is correct, just don't mark it. Verify once again with the passage. Okay, verify kijiye, because again inference mein UPSC what they do is that they frame the options in such a way lagega ki the word is so beautifully written ki this is the right answer, but probably it will be wrong. Okay, so again you have to verify. Okay, these are the common wrong answer in inference question. Okay, first is restatement of a passage detail. Inference is what comes after the passage. If there is a restatement of what is mentioned in the passage, that is galat, that is incorrect, right? Second is distorted or misattributed information. This is one of the most like the way that UPSC frame their incorrect options. What is it? Causality, I told you, cause and effect. Today we'll practice, we'll find those mistakes. So again, these are the common wrong answers, right? So it is very important today what we will do, along with why it is right answer, we will understand why other 3 options are incorrect. Okay? It is very important when you are doing PYQ, why this is correct and why other 3 are incorrect, so that you know that actually UPSC frames incorrect options in this manner. Use of extreme or absolute language, this is, you know very well, but you have to know the rationale of it. Why extreme or absolute language is strict? No. Because in inference in a passage, there will be many twists and turns, right? So an absolute statement goes against it. But if the passage is absolute, and we'll have an example of that also. If the passage is absolute, then option can also be absolute. Okay? An introduction of unrelated or unsupported elements, that is a new concept or a new theme that has been introduced. Okay, chalo, let's start. Okay, so first what I want you to do is this. Now this is very important. When we read the passage, first what you do is, you tell me the theme of it. You tell me those words that we did it in imply, which give stress, right? And we have to focus on those lines. Okay? And then we'll go on, check the options. Okay? Okay. Done? Okay. Tell me the theme of it. No, theme is that's like summary. Here tone does not matter. Here summary matters. Summary or theme. Can be, yes, it can be that, right? Yes, that can also be that inference also you can draw. There can be multiple inferences, by the way. You have to check the most important ones, right? Multi-dimensional approach can also be there. Okay. Yes, tackling food security and climate change, right? Okay. Now, here, which is the section where I can say that it is giving stress? Like it is, yes, comprehensive strategies are 6 to improve food security. Coordinated measures. And what did I say? What is one of the important aspect of inference? How it is ending? I've said that. So can I say some of the measures? Some of the measures, these measures may have to do with climate changes and others with economic development, right? So in order to, somebody said food security, right? So both climate change and other economic development, they go hand in hand. Can I say this? ठीक है. So like what are the hints that we have drawn? First is that the stress word, comprehensive strategy, right? Second is how it is ending. Some of the measures may have to do with climate change and others with economic development. ठीक है. चलो. Tell me which two options you like before coming to the correct answer. Two options which you can eliminate immediately. A is done. Okay. Okay. So answer is
A and B can be eliminated.
A and B. Okay. 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 A and B can be eliminated. Somebody C also said can be eliminated. The answer is then D. ठीक है. Climate adaptation should be now. Like just a second. ठीक है. Now tell me something. Now this is important. ये answer D तो अभी like because we read the passage well, I give some input, so easily you can come to the right answer. So exam में I will not be there, right? So collective voice will not be there. It will be your head, your intellect. So instead, like yes, D is the answer, but we have to understand why ABC is incorrect. So that next passage we go, we understand this is the way inference passage is framed, incorrect passage is framed. So option A, it is difficult to pursue climate adaptation in the developing countries. Why that is correct? Why that is incorrect? Sorry. There is like developing countries, there is no mention of it. ठीक है? Okay. Improving food security is a far more complex issue than climate adaptation. Not mention. इसका reason देखिए. This is important. Improving food security is a far more complex issue, and this is important. If you don't understand this, ये not mention नहीं है. यहाँ पर comparison किसका हो रहा है? Food security is far more complex than climate. This is not the comparison that the passage is drawing. Right, so what you do is when you practice your question, you mark this. वहाँ पर लिखिए. Do you have a compilation of PYQs? So we have the book, right? So do this exercise. Do this. Trust me. Like if you do, you will not get a single inference question incorrect. And like I personally believe that if you properly analyze paper, right? They have not asked any inference question in 2025. They will ask 3 or 4 questions. So in 2023, they have asked at least 7 questions from inference. If they not asked 7 questions, they will ask 4 or 5 questions. तो ये exercise कीजिए, ठीक है? Why C is incorrect? Every developmental activity is directly or indirectly linked to climate adaptation. What is the reason? Causality. Excellent. ठीक है? Now what I want you to do is, look, this is a very important word. Can you see this? Online guys, can you see this? अच्छा दिखाई दे रहा है क्या? एकदम light. Okay, चलो कोई नहीं. What I want you to do this, for every passage you solve, do this exercise. You mark those, how it is ending. Some of these measures may have to do with climate changes and others with economic development. You mark it in your passage when you practice. So this is an exercise you do. Another, these highlighted words. Yesterday, I think I told about that if is a very important word, right? If policies are not designed in the context of other development concerns, climate adaptation may be rendered ineffective if policies are not, right? So the focus is if policies are not designed in context of other development concerns. Which are the other development concerns? Economic development, which is answer is here. ठीक है? And hence proved which thing that in case of inference, usually the support of the correct answer will be separated not in one sentence but based on information in 2 to 3 sentences. ठीक है? चलो. Okay, this one. Done. This is UPSC's favorite passage. ये बायोडाइवर्सिटी वाले ना, क्लाइमेट आप देखोगे कि ये भर भर के क्लाइमेट वाले चीजें देते हैं, ठीक है? There is a reason also. I'll tell you what is the reason. ठीक है, इसका like what is the theme of it? Sustainable agriculture. Okay, and be like more again focus on those words. First, let's mark those words which are important. बताइए. dangerous dwindling biodiversity. ठीक है, excellent. फिर that one, I'm trying to search that one word. एक word है जहां से पूरा मोर बदल रहा है. Yes, excellent. Yet. This, if, yet, therefore, hence, since, but. These are very important words. High yield crops to the exclusion of varieties adapted to the local conditions. Monocropping vast fields with the same genetically uniform seeds help boost yield and meet immediate hunger needs. यहाँ तो ठीक है. If the passage had ended here, then it would have a different meaning. But yet, रुको जरा, right? रुको. Yet, so the message is come. The like whatever the question, I don't have to see the answer. Whatever, I don't have to see the answer. I will know my answer will be from here to here. I don't know the option, but my answer will be here. कहीं पर यहाँ पर छुपा होगा. Yet high-end varieties are also genetically weaker crops that require expensive chemical fertilizers and toxic pesticides. ठीक है? So here it is kind of critiquing, right? Again, it is a inference question. How it is ending is important. In our focus on increasing the amount of food we produce today, we have accidentally put ourselves at risk for shortage in future. ठीक है? Understood everyone? Let's see the options. No, answer is D. Answer is D. Answer is D. Right? Answer is D. Now, the options are very trickily framed. Now, let's understand. You must have questions. Yes, you have questions. Take it. Anybody, like, let's see the. Take it. We know the answer is D. And why? Let's see, understand why answer is D. Green revolution can pose a threat to biodiversity in food supply and food security in the long run. Right? Yet, so green revolution यहाँ पर बताया दिया गया है. They have mentioned about green revolution. Again, inference means like it will be like from two places, right? Yet high yield varieties are also genetically weaker crops that require expensive chemical fertilizers and toxic pesticides. In our focus on increasing the amount of food we produce today, we have accidentally put ourselves at the risk of shortages in future. As I said, ना यहाँ से यहीं तक आपका आंसर question होएगा. But let's say that this section is not there. Then we could have seen these two options. Monocropping, because here it is talking about monocropping. Are you getting it? Clear? अभी थोड़ा समझ आ रहा है inference? Easy लग रहा है? चलो और भी easy लग गया. अच्छा, another thing. Okay, so let's understand. Monocropping with high yield varieties is the only way to ensure food security to 2 millions. Why it is wrong? The option यहाँ पर it has given a caveat ना. कहाँ का only way? Because like if we do it, again we'll face issue. Okay, monocropping vast fields with high field varieties is possible due to green revolution. Why this is wrong? Now, if you understand why this is wrong ना, तो trust me वो जो दो option का issue हो रहा था ना वो नहीं होगा. Why B is wrong? Excellent. That is one reason. Here they have directly stated कि monocropping vast field with high variety is possible due to green revolution. Causality का issue है. ठीक है? Right. Another thing why this is wrong, because again stress word is here. Monocropping के बारे में यहाँ पर focus नहीं है, because author has diverted towards issues, risk. In our agriculture practices, we have become heavily dependent on expensive chemical fertilizers and toxic pesticides only due to green revolution. Only due to causality भी है, only like finality भी है. मतलब ये तो देखकर ही पता लग रहा है कि ये गलत है. ठीक है, चलो. First, let's understand why we make mistake in assumption. We make mistakes in assumption because we think that mistakes in assumption because we think that like we try to solve assumption like any other questions, like inference questions, crux questions, right? Or message questions. Now, assumptions are one of the most dangerous because you have to go into the mind of the author. Because what does assumption mean? It means that the author has, whoever is writing, he has thought about something and then he has or she has written. So what UPSC is asking you to do is to preempt what comes before the passage, what the author is thinking. बस इतना ही करना है. तो an assumption is an unstated belief that must be true for the author's argument or conclusion to logically stand. I'll help you. I'll break each and every part. So it's an unstated belief. It's not. It's an unstated belief in the sense it will not be written in the passage. So the most important here is we will not eliminate an option based on outside knowledge. Because outside knowledge hai hai, because this is there in author's mind. And he has thought of it and then he has written the passage. Okay? Unstated belief. And this is again another important thing. Why unstated belief? Because when you write something, there has to be a belief in something and then you write. You have to find out that belief. You have to match that option or the statement, whether is this author's belief when he has written this passage? If it is, then it is correct. If it is not, it is incorrect. इतना ही करना है, ठीक? So believe that must be true for the author's argument. Author's argument is a passage or conclusion to logically stand. ठीक है? Till here it's clear that I have believed that climate change is real and hence I'm writing that in the passage is written that the developed countries has to take responsibility for loss and damages fund. I believe that trafficking is bad and hence the Indian state should make sure that both the states and the union should come together and stop trafficking, right? So this belief, assumption is this belief, okay? Okay. So the process will be this, how to read the passage. First you read the passage and make a brief mental summary, or you can write a summary also, right? What this passage is about. Now, while reading, take note of extreme words like most definitely only, because, now this is very important. 90% of the times in assumption, the assumption is very general in nature, right? It's like you will see the assumptions, which the correct assumptions is very general in nature. It is very the assumptions is framed in form of an overview. But if the passage is extreme, right, and the assumption, there is this extreme word, right, then you should think that yes, the author has thought about that extreme and hence he has written an extreme passage. Then I will not eliminate that option because this is an extreme option. Are you getting the logic of it? If the passage is extreme, then the assumption can be extreme. Okay? So be careful of these words like most definitely only. Okay? Okay. Now, once you have read the passage, you have to go to the option. Again, like inference, here also, option, it is primarily option dependent. How you are reading the option is very important. It is option dependent. So first you read the option and then eliminate the option based on extreme words like every only, because if you see the passage is not extreme and if the option is extreme, then you can eliminate these words. Like you're getting the logic of it because the passage mein koi extreme word nahi hai, but in the option the assumption is extreme, then it is incorrect. Okay? Then with the remaining options, try to locate option to that particular section. Now this is the most important section. This is the most, like this is the only thing that will help you to get the assumption correct. So let's say that you have eliminated two options. You can easily eliminate two options. Then there are two options or one statement or two statement, whatever it is. First, you have to understand what the statement is saying. then you have to locate that option into that particular section of the passage. But this is very important. From which because let's say this is a passage. Now UPSC, let's say UPSC can frame an assumption from only one sentence, from here to let's say here. They can frame one sentence, one assumption from here. So what you do, you have to read the option or the statement here, then try to find which place the author is talking about it. If you find it, if you don't find it, let's say you don't find it, then the assumption is incorrect. Because it's here, it has been said that this is an assumption, but in passages, nowhere it's mentioned about this thing. Nowhere it is mentioned about this thing. Then obviously it is incorrect because the author has not assumed and have written this, right? But let's say that you find it, one word or two word, you find it in the passage. Then what do? You then try to think, then this question should be there in your mind, is the author trying to think this before he has written that particular section of the passage? Yes. Is the author trying to think about this before he has written this particular passage? Yehi karna hai aapko. So basically, read, locate, identify. In assumption, read, locate, identify. Okay? Read, locate, identify. Okay? Clear? Right. Ask yourself the question, has the author thought so before writing this section to the passage or the argument? If he, like, and trust me, you like that much of logical capability you have to identify it. There will be certain tricks which UPSC plays will identify those, but mota you will identify, you will know. Right? If the author has thought of it, then it is a valid assumption. Okay? Okay. What are the traps to avoid? Facts which are already stated in the passage. These are not assumption, because assumption will be what comes before the passage, right? Extreme absolute statements, right? Always, never, only, all, completely. These are incorrect because assumption comes from a very broader overview, right? Okay. So let's first practice with one or two options, and then like you will be solving it. Okay. Okay. So read this passage. Done, right? What will be the summary of it? Take your time.
And it's
So here the summary is not very important, but but passage readings are again important. Because we have to locate the assumption. Okay? So mota you have understood the passage, right? You have understood the passage. Okay. Now what you do? Read the options or read the statement, understand the statement, locate the statement, and then compare. Okay. Now this is challenging. This is challenging, and I need to take time. लेकिन अच्छा से करेंगे. ठीक है. First, India continues to be a developing country, essentially due to its faulty education system, right? Okay. Now, I'm reading this option. I'm reading this option that India continues to be a developing country essentially due to its faulty education system. I've read it. Now I have to understand what this particular. So this is an assumption, by the way. This is an assumption. I have to see whether first it is mentioned anywhere. It is talking anywhere in this passage. Can you tell me, is it mentioned anywhere in the passage? Is talking anywhere in the passage? Is it? Nowhere it's mentioned about developing country. Nowhere it is mentioned about developing country. मुझे देखना भी नहीं है. I can easily eliminate this option as incorrect. ठीक है? This is incorrect. Okay. Now, today's learners need to acquire new age skill sets. Right? This is an assumption. Now, what I do, I understand. Okay, so now the author is trying to think that today's students like you or aspirants, like they need to acquire new AI like ChatGPT, right? Right. Okay. So he's thinking, and because he has thought it, has it written somewhere in the passage?
The last part.
So can we relate this with this? Can we relate this with this? Today's learners, so I'm thinking, today's learners need to acquire new AI skills set. And hence I have thought about it. I'm writing from an economic point of view, the environment today is very different. It is a complex, volatile, and globally interconnected world. Right? And hence they have to acquire this new age skill sets. Right? Now there's another way. Now this is called negation. Have you heard about negation in assumption? Negation in assumption? Okay. Negation means what? Negation, now like try to understand. Negation means that if I consider this statement as incorrect, will it weaken the passage or not? Is it weakening the passage? Let's say I said, no, this is not an assumption. Is it weakening the passage? It is weakening the passage. So there is another way to test. Like that's the reason when I said ki assumption takes time, but we'll get all the questions correct. So first you locate and ask yourself this question, that is the author thinking about it. Second way to verify, I will negate it. Today's learners need to acquire new AI skills. Today's learners do not need to acquire new AI skills. Then I'm diluting this section. Am I not? Are you getting it? Please understand this clearly. So if I'm diluting it, then this author must have thought of it. Right? So hence this is correct. Okay? Now you are getting the logic of it. Assumption ke? Not clear? Clear? Clear. Okay, excellent. A good number of Indians go to some developed countries for education because the educational system there are a perfect reflection of the societies in which they function. Anywhere they have mentioned about a good number of Indians go abroad. Abhi isko negate karte hain. A good number of Indians do not go abroad or whatever it is. It does not have any bearing on the statement, the passage only. So this is also incorrect. Answer is 2 only. This is an easy question. ठीक है. Difficult questions आएंगे. Okay. चलो ठीक है. ठीक है. So this is the area. तो here जैसे message वाले question पे, imply वाले questions पे, crux not crux, message, imply and inference end में होते थे answers. Not in assumption वो कुछ नहीं है. They can take just one line from here, one section from here and frame an assumption from that. So read, locate and identify. This is the process. Read the option, locate the option. If you can't locate, तो वो फिर assumption है नहीं. Read the option, locate the option, and then identify. Identification can be done in 2 processes. Is the author thinking about it or not? If it's first process, second is negation. ठीक है? ठीक है, चलो. This one we did, I think, with message wale question. This is again crux question. This assumption question as well. Done? Just give me a brief summary.
Need for corridors as we have discussed.
Need for corridors. Right? Need for corridors like we discussed. ठीक है? ठीक है. Okay. This is, I think, 2022 question. So first you tell me where to locate in the passage.
Later the tiger trek.
Excellent. Excellent. The trek of this solitary tiger highlights a crisis from here to here. Can I say that? Can I locate that first? The strategy of conservation of wildlife by relocating them from one protected area to another is not often successful. Again, the word here is often. Again, it is an assumption. Assumption means it is an overview. It's not very specific. Right? So, how do I locate? Like, how do I locate here? Then, fortunately, we have locate here also. Strategy of conservation of wildlife by relocating them. So, relocate kahan par likha hai? Yahan par relocate likha hai, right? So, theek hai. So, let me read this. A male tiger was removed from Pench Tiger Reserve and was relocated in Panna National Park. Later, this tiger trekked toward his home 250 miles away. The trek of this solitary tiger highlights a crisis. And hence often not successful. Match हो रहा है? Let's negate. इसको negate करते हैं. It is strategy of conservation of wildlife by relocating them from one protected area to another is successful. Is it diluting? It is diluting. Dilute कर रहे हैं ना? Because ऊपर right. ठीक है. So this is correct assumption. Okay. Second one.
The idea of thought that lives outside
Mm-hmm. Huh. So India does not have a suitable legislation to save the tigers, and its conservation efforts have failed, which forced the tigers to live outside protected areas. Anywhere it's mentioned about this suitable legislation. This is why these kind of questions are difficult. You will fall into the trap of, and its conservation efforts have failed, which force the tigers to live outside protected areas. And you will find, अच्छा यहाँ पर तो लिखा हुआ है, nearly a third of tiger lives outside reserves. But you have to, this is important. You have to, don't try, match the words. Try to understand the assumption. So now think, is the author thinking about suitable legislation, failure of suitable legislation? Right? It's not thinking about that. Okay? So this is... Yes, I was coming to that. Did I tell yesterday that science and environment mein we can have this kind of knowledge? Right? When somebody is writing a passage, right, what he's assuming must be true to write the passage. India does not have a suitable, we have WPS 72, which is another legislation, not like similar to WPS 72. Yes, we're conservation project tiger, like not legislation, but similar schemes. We have project tiger schemes also, right? Okay. So we have these conservation measures, right? So yes, you are right. So we can use that knowledge also. Okay. Okay. So this is the first section, and legislation is nowhere mentioned. Okay. So look, the thing is that we have learned to detect and locate and identify, right? Now, trust me, like when you will be solving PYQs, you will have questions. And assumption wale, like you will have questions and you will like make mistakes. And hence what we have to do is that you have to discuss. So like I sit in office, right? Whenever you face any problem, please come and we can discuss those questions. But the most important thing is this, that we'll not forget about the process. If it is a statement-based question, you have to first locate that particular section. If it is not there, then we have seen some examples. It's not mentioned. तो उसको करना ही नहीं है, right? Then it's like the assumption is incorrect. But just locating is not enough. At times we feel locational, like the words are similar, and we think ये assumption है. That is the most dangerous thing. Like for example, that BPA wala, treatment and this, right? So location and detection, we detect whether the author is thinking about it before he has written or she has written it. Okay? That is important. So if you have any problem, like please come, we can discuss, right? Acha, miscellaneous, yesterday we had a kind of an issue with that question. This wala question, right? Okay. Why this question? I'll tell you. If you get this question and in the examination and like when you are preparing paper, so you will be getting these kind of questions, right? My advice is don't do it. Maths, you take a call, na? I'll do this section, I'll do this maths, I'll not do this logical reasoning. Why can't we leave passages as well? Because if you take the call in that first 30 seconds, I read it, I don't understand, I'll leave it, right? Then you don't waste that another 3 minutes that you will giving to understand this particular passage. And I explained to her yesterday how like the passage actually in like you are not literature student. I'm a literature student, so this kind of questions are metaphors. Have you heard about this term, metaphors, similes and metaphors? These are metaphors. So every word has its meaning. Every word has its meaning. So yesterday, I'll come to this question. So when such question comes, it's better to leave it because that 30 seconds will become 3 minutes. And then you realize, then I have to solve this question. You solve it incorrectly. And that 3 minutes becomes 0.83 as a negative, right? Take a call in that first 30 seconds. Read it. If you don't understand it, you have a doubt, don't solve it. Okay, let's...
What if we are confident with the
Obviously,
answer?
then I have
But
those...
that is the wrong option. Like we were pretty confident yesterday about B.
B, you are confident. Then 0.83 has to go, right? Then
But is it so that metaphors are completely to be avoided?
completely to be avoided. Because metaphors, you are not trained in identifying metaphors. You are not literature student. हमें 2-3 साल लग जाते हैं because here yesterday what was happening, if you read the let's read the sentence. The states are like pearls and the center is the thread which turns them into a necklace. If the thread snaps, the pearls are scattered. Now let's understand. What is this? I'll go into the, and I will convince you why not to attempt this. What is this? Right? You have studied clauses. You have studied clause. So we can divide this sentence into 2 clauses. Till here 1 clause, then there is the other clause. Right? Now in your case, what you're doing, we're focusing on this clause. This is the major clause. This is the most important clause. Like and I'm trying to convince you not to attempt this question. This is the most important section. Each and every word has a meaning. The states are like pearls. So they're comparing states as pearls. States are as important as, like, if they're comparing it to pearls, states are important. Center is the thread which turns them into necklace. Now you say that no, it is the thread which gives it a form of an union, whatever it is. But center is the thread. Center is the thread. So I'll compare center as a thread and state as a pearl. Right? Both in its function has its importance. Center in being a thread has its importance. This is a metaphor. State being a pearl has its importance. Right? And then only वो necklace बनेगा ना, नहीं तो pearl earring भी बन सकता है. ठीक है? Now, if the thread, now because you are focusing on this section, if the thread snaps, the pearls are scattered. Thread snaps means union goes away, center goes away. Pearls are scattered. So, according to yesterday, what we were saying, that because it is the center which is joining, it is important. But no, the state is equally participating in making this necklace. And hence, a strong center and strong states makes the federation strong.
इंडियन फेडरेशन के हिसाब से सोचता है ना, इसलिए गलत कर दिया. अगर ये अमेरिकन सोचते तो
Yesterday I told, अगर ये अमेरिकन वाले से आप सोचोगे ना, तो first is the right answer. India, it's like it's a pseudo federation, right? So, did I convince you not to attempt this question? You cannot. So that's the reason why. Like,
What will I do with the thread if there are no pearls?
फिर वो बाबा बन के घूमोगे, right? So this is the reason why such question. Like, look, I can give you 50 such questions. If you want, I can give you a worksheet of 50 such questions because these comes very easily to us because we are literature. हमें और कुछ काम नहीं है ऐसे वाले statements को तोड़ना है, मरोड़ना है, उनका like we have to identify the meaning. But you are not from literature background. How many are from humanities background? Humanities background. Which is why, but humanities background still you can to go to an extent, but you don't know what metaphor is. Most of you will not know what clauses are. ठीक है, as she said, this is a dependent clause. ये focus नहीं है. That is the focus. अब फिर वहाँ पर बैठकर आप clause identify करोगे. I will be teaching clause, then तो हो गया फिर. ठीक है, okay. चलो, not important. Now, there are 2 kinds of questions. One is the philosophical questions, and those questions safely leave it. Trust me. And we'll have certain questions which are very easy also, which you have to attempt. I have some questions also. There is a second kind of question जहाँ पर कोई directive रहता नहीं है. So they give a passage. According to the passage, they give 2 or 3 statements. Those are the easiest to do. The passages are lengthy, by the way. Those are the easy. Usko kaise karna hai? Same assumption or inference. We have to locate and identify. Usme detect nahi karna hai because assumption nahi hai, but it has to be from the passage. ठीक है? Okay. So method for non-directive questions, where there is no directive, always do this in order. Like, first, compress the passage into one sentence. Ask what the author essentially is saying. Right? In this case, the states are like pearls, and the center is the thread which turns them into a necklace. If the thread snaps, the pearls are scattered. So here, I would say that both the center and the thread comes together to create a beautiful necklace, and the existence of the necklace create a beautiful necklace. So this is the first job, is to boil down to one sentence. Okay. Right. So ask what the author is trying to essentially say. Right. And then try to identify the tone. Like, is it praising, justifying, explaining a relationship, warning against something? So it is explaining a relationship. Right. In this case, it is explaining a relationship. Okay. Okay. Now, eliminate the options that add new dimensions. They flip the tone, exaggerate, right? The correct answer will mirror the passage, not interpret beyond it. So, like in this case, which of the 4 options which we can eliminate easily? C and D we can eliminate. A strong center is a hindrance to the state autonomy. It is bringing a new dimension, right? State autonomy is prerequisite for federation. Again, a new dimension is brought in, right? So C and D is eliminated, but again, A and B is the problem. So yesterday we got stuck to the problem. Because we got stuck to the problem, and hence such questions cannot be attempted. But we have questions like this also. And we solved questions like this also. It looks difficult, but can we solve this question? Can we boil it down to one statement? What is that one statement? Tell me. Yes, yes, excellent. That I choose myself to put under the government and I have a voice, right? Okay, that one job is done, excellent. Okay, second is what is the author trying to do in this case? Praising it, justifying it, explaining a relationship, warning against something. So it can be other also, right? It is explaining, right? Okay. So options. Right, both rule according to the consent of the governed. It is explaining a concept, and it is like rule according to the consent. I give consent that you govern me. I put myself, okay, into that position. Okay, so like, will we leave this kind of questions? We will be getting this kind of questions. Will not leave such questions. This question. One line and then give me a value judgment. Like, what is author trying to say?
More than the bundle of habits.
Habits define people.
Habits define people. Okay, okay.
What is the convenience that habits bring to life?
Very important. Convenience. You get up early in the morning, right? That's a habit which most people don't. That's a convenience which, right? Another habit, solving questions now. Right, like it's very important habit. Please inculcate this habit abhi se. ठीक है. Make it easier to live. Should we leave this kind of question? These are sitter questions. This is, I think, 21 wala question. Okay, which is again like 21 was difficult. Okay. So what my point is that there, like, you have to take a call in that 30 seconds. Directive wale jo questions hai, that to for sure I know I'll be attempting it because I know the process. Non-directive, I read, I give 30 seconds, I don't understand, choro. Like, if you see yesterday's question paper which I've said, like there were questions. How many of you did this penguin wala question? Penguin question. Penguin question. Got it correct? Penguin question. Answer key has not been given. क्यों कल ही तो जाना चाहिए था? Today it will come. Okay. That was an inference question, right?
First of all, what is that misconception that people are understanding it wrong why penguins are behaving like that?
मुझे लगता है they have given I think 6 to 7 philosophical questions.
Yeah, so like philosophical question, no, they have not. I have prepared that. I'll tell you the reason why. The reason is, look, we'll be solving around 280 questions, right? Rather 280 to 90 questions in passage. So I don't want unnecessarily to make the question paper difficult. What I want is this, and I'll tell you my logic also, and it will help you. There were easy passages also. But the percentage of like probably the difficult passages were more. So first is, if the passage is itself difficult, उसको करना ही नहीं है. You leave it. हाँ नहीं उसको छोड़ दी. And I'll tell you the reason why. The reason is this, that so one is philosophical questions like such, right? Another is like difficult passage. So second paper you will face like another couple of difficult passages. So you have, it's not also about how to solve, it is also about how to leave. I always tell, look, 29 questions, you don't have to do 29 questions. Trust me. Your goal is that in 40 minutes, I'll be solving 22 questions and I will get all of them correct. So for that, what you have to do, you have to leave those 7 or 8 questions or whatever number of questions. Because you leave those questions, you get that extra time for those 22 questions. And hence my logic of giving some difficult papers. Acha, you say it's difficult, but I have taken all the passage from the same source where UPSC has taken. UPSC Machiavelli se quote karta hai. I have taken question from Machiavelli. UPSC Renaissance, they take passage from Renaissance. I have taken quote, like I have taken passage from Renaissance, right? So we have to solve this kind of questions, and then there's a trick also to solve these questions. Dekho, I think yesterday I told you, in case of science and environment, you can bring outside knowledge. I told you that, right? In case of philosophical question, the trick is this. I don't usually discuss tricks because it's not my nature. The trick is this. The question which is very practical, the option which is very practical in nature, वही सही होगा. वही सही होता है. ठीक है? In case of philosophical question. So tomorrow when you get the, so if you want to discuss the paper, you can please come. Please come to the office, right? So to come on Monday, right? I can show you like how philosophical questions in UPSC also. When they give a philosophical question, actually they are trying to understand the practicality of your mind. So of the 4, the most practical option is the right answer. Okay? Okay, so you come, so like usually philosophical questions 23 में 24 में आया था, ठीक है? 25 there were no such philosophical questions except 1 or 2. Pre-2020 there were many philosophical questions, right? So we can take some PYQs also and I can show you. ठीक है? चलो ठीक है.